Everybody. So we are in the fifth session of our Evaluation Bootcamp. This is Khushbu from Express2Lead Club. And today, mostly what we're going to do is we have Suraj, one of the bootcamp participants, Suraj's speech, as well as we will be evaluating Jimky's speech as well once again. We'll see on a few aspects of that speech as well. And at the end, we have our live speaker, Sarmista. She'll be giving her speech today in this session, and then we'll see as a evaluator point of view. We'll see the nitty-gritty of her speeches and try to evaluate what went well, what can be improved, and all the aspects. So this is our fifth session. So without further ado, I would like to call upon our Chandramoulli, who is the coach of this particular event. Please welcome Chandramoulli for taking up session further.
Thank you, Khushbu. And I think this session is more going to be about all of you people talking. What I would want all of you to do is that, so there are two speeches, right? One is Jimky's speech and the other one is Suraj's speech. So I would want to know how many of you are interested in evaluating Jimky's speech, how many of you are interested in evaluating Suraj's speech.
Suraj's speech, I was checking, but then I feel the audio quality was not that great. So
yeah, I agree on that. But some of them might be interested in evaluating that as well. So I want to check if there are people who are interested in that. So what we will do is we will at least get started with whoever wants to evaluate Jimky's speech. Take your 3.5 minutes time, give your evaluation, so we can build from there, right? Who all are interested in doing the evaluation of Jimky's speech? Can I have a show of hand at least? Yeah, you can, or you can say I want to do, or ping and message. Today I'm not showing any video, so I can watch the chat very much. Okay, Bandana wants to do, Khushbu would do. Anyone else who's planning to evaluate Jimky's speech? I would need at least 2 more people to evaluate, right? So that is when half an hour we'll finish 4 evaluations, so that we get an idea.
I guess we have to choose people.
Yeah.
I think people are interested in evaluating Suraj's speech because Jimky's is hardly any points are there.
Okay, got that. But still, we have not put it together as an evaluation, right?
True. Yes.
So that's why I think it makes sense for probably we can get started with you, Bandana. Why don't you give? Yeah.
For Jimky's speech.
Yeah. Right.
I've not prepared any evaluation for him.
Okay. So who has an evaluation prepared? I don't care if it is for Jimky's speech or for Suraj's speech. Does anyone have an evaluation prepared?
For Suraj's speech, I did a little. Well, I was going through the video for the first time.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Okay. So what we shall do, if I think people are not prepared with an evaluation, I want to hear from others. Is anyone prepared with an evaluation? I would suggest people to unmute and say either yes or no, or at least on the chat, so I know that there are people in the call.
Is it possible that we play
play what? Play Suraj's?
Yeah, Suraj's speech, and then probably we can do the evaluation later after that, because I was so busy I didn't.
That's all right. So I was checking if anyone is prepared already to start with. If not, that is the second option, right? But I would first want to see Suraj's speech is a new speech. If people have not heard it, they're going to hear it right now in this meeting, right? Which means you won't have sufficient time to prepare your evaluation in a detailed way. I want to see if someone has done the homework of preparing and sharing
Okay.
right? So if anyone has done that, I would want to hear them out first.
No, looks like nobody
Okay,
with
cool.
that. Yeah.
So then what we should do is, the second best option is, I know that we have looked at the Jim Key speech multiple times, so there is no meaning in playing that speech again. So would anyone, how do we go about that speech evaluation? So we can use that as a sample and kind of construct an evaluation with some points. But we have already done that, right? So I thought if someone could present it, it would be nice. But if no one is doing, we can move on to Suraj's speech. I don't have a problem.
Yep.
What
Otherwise, let's move to Suraj's speech.
Actually, Jimky's speech has only positive aspects to bring out, like.
Which means people have not done a day. So I would really want, see, if we keep in our mind that there is only positive in that speech, we would not be able to find opportunities for improvement in that, right?
True.
If you can find opportunities for improvement in that speech, that means you have put your mind to it. Because any speech definitely has an opportunity of improvement, no matter whether it's the world champion speech or not. And that year he did not even win. He came second. So J. Gamash came third, and I think I forgot who came first. I can look up. It was 2001, right? So 8-8 won the contest. That's a fantastic speech, but nevertheless, he did not win the contest, which shows definitely there was an area of improvement for him, right? Even if someone had won it, there is definitely an area of improvement. Why I wanted to do that is also because sometimes we feel, say for example, a superstar from a club is giving a speech, right? And we feel humbled that we give an area of improvement. I think that should be broken. Anybody has the ability to give a very valuable feedback to anyone, because you're looking at it from your perspective, and that adds value to the speaker, right? So if that was not thought from that direction, perfectly fine. We can go on with Suraj's speech and probably take at least an assignment of, we would have Sharmishta giving her speech. We'll take that as an assignment for next week, and we'll definitely be better prepared for that evaluation, right? So what I would do is probably play the evaluation, play the speech of Suraj, right? Will that work for everyone? Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll indeed share my screen now. Just give me a second. And okay, should I download it? I think downloading will make mine work faster. In the meanwhile, I'm just downloading it so that it will not take away the entire system's resource. Anybody has any questions, anything that needs to be addressed before we go into that, into watching that video? Okay, looks like we have none. Let me try and so did all of you watch the video at least of Suraj? How many of you watched the video of Suraj?
I watched.
I watched as well.
Okay. I just watched a while ago. A good candidate for evaluation, right? Because it has, I mean, it has things which are hidden. It has things which you can do analysis on. It's a nice speech too. kind of understand the thought process. And lucky for us, or in a way, it is a boon in disguise that he is not here to tell whether what we are thinking is right or wrong, right? But still, we can guess and
Yeah.
we can figure out. Let me play the video. It's just finished downloading. Okay, yeah, I'm ready to play it. Hope all of you are I'll share the computer video, optimize for video clip and share. Okay, I'll start the video, right? All of you can see it and hear it, right? I assume.
Yes, we can see that.
Okay, and you heard the white noise as well.
Yep.
Yes.
Can you guys hear me and see me okay?
Yeah, now it was audible as well, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, though there is a bit of audio disturbance. Let me go ahead and.
One of the best things which has happened to me during this lockdown is that I have enough time to practice yoga. As I'm starting to explore the various yoga poses, one of the poses which I've fallen in love with is called the Virabhadrasana. The Virabhadrasana has three postures. The first posture needs you to put your right leg forward, and then you bend your right leg, push your hips down, take your arms up, and hold your gaze at your hands. The second posture of Virabhadrasana involves you bending your knee and pointing your torso and stretching your arms up and holding your gaze at the arm. And the third posture, Virabhadrasana, involves you managing and balancing your body on one leg, which is this. As I fell in love with Virabhadrasana postures, my mind wanted to understand the origination of how this posture came about. Good afternoon, Toastmasters and guests. The story of Virabhadrasana posture starts off with Brahma, the creator. So, Brahma had the special power of creating sons from the power of his mind. He did not need a woman's womb to produce a son. One such son was named Daksha, and Daksha was the one who wanted to create culture in human society. So Daksha started doing yagnas. Yagna is a form of practice which is procedural and which will help put people in different roles and responsibilities. It's also a metaphor to control nature, because in a yagna, you control the fire within a sacrificial altar. You control free-flowing water by holding it within a pot. You also control humans' behavior by giving each person roles and responsibilities to form in the yagna. Now, Daksha realized that other than humans, there were two other beings who inhabited this whole world. One were the Devas, who lived in the sky and controlled light, water, heat, and everything natural. The second were the Asuras, who lived below the earth and controlled plants and natural elements. Now, Daksha wanted to control Asuras and take their assets from them. So he sided with the Devas, and with every yagna he performed, he wanted to make the Devas powerful so that the Devas would fight against the Asuras and Daksha would have the power to rule over the Asuras. The only problem in this plan was that both Devas and Asuras prayed to Lord Shiva. Now, Lord Shiva did not discriminate between them. He treated the Devas and the Asuras equal and enabled and blessed both of them. this caused a lot of anger to Daksha. To make matters worse, Daksha's daughter Sati fell in love with Shiva. When Daksha heard this, he vehemently opposed her alliance. But Sati did not have anything. She walked out of Daksha's house and got married to Shiva. Daksha wanted to teach them a lesson. So he organized a grand yagna, but did not invite Sati or Shiva. When Sati got to know about this, she was extremely angry with her father. So she landed up at the yagna uninvited and demanded an explanation from her father. Daksha chose this opportunity to publicly humiliate his daughter and his son-in-law. Unable to bear this humiliation, Sati jumped into the blazing fire of the sacrificial altar and set herself ablaze. When Shiva heard about Sati's actions, he was outraged. Out of this outrage came Veerabhadra, who was a fierce warrior. So Veerabhadra led an army of ghosts, goblins, dogs and snakes to Daksha's yagna. They all ransacked the gathering and they turned everything unholy. As Veerabhadra finally found Daksha, his forward knee, arms, and then he moved his body, pointed it towards Daksha, and then bent over one knee to behead Daksha. The important elements of this story is Daksha acted out of anger. Sati acted out of anger. Shiva created Veerabhadra out of anger. Anger is born in the human mind. Anger is immense energy which is produced in the human body. When this anger is projected outwards, it can create a lot of chaos. But if the anger and that energy is projected inwards, it will enable the individual to harness that energy to gain self-control. The idea of Veerabhadrasana is for the individual to harness that energy and power within oneself. And yoga teaches individuals to control their emotions and enable and use that energy to gain better wisdom rather than cause harm to somebody else. Over to the Toastmaster.
Okay. If someone is already prepared with the evaluation, we can go with the evaluation, or probably we can take 2-3 minutes to jot down the evaluation and then get started.
I want to share something, Chandramoulli.
Yes.
When he started his speech, his hands were mostly clenched around his head and placed very close to each other. Is that a symbolism of nervousness or something like he's still recalling something?
So let us look at it this way, right? You look at one aspect of hand gesture and feel whether it's nervous or not. That is very incorrect, or how do I put it? Like you have been told that if someone does that, it is nervousness. Do you agree to that?
Yes, in my first evaluation, icebreaker, I had got this input.
Correct. So I want you to unlearn that. Gestures alone does not determine your mood. For example, hands in the pocket, if that is nervousness, then when you're carefree and you put hands in your pocket, you're not nervous. Folding your hands, if it is nervousness, then when a boss wants to ascertain that he is a boss and he folds his arms and stands up tall, that is not nervousness, right? So always there is an art of reading body language in which you don't look at just one aspect, which means you're not reading it right. When you look at the facial gestures, you look at the facial gestures, your hand gestures and your body's pose, right? And what are you doing and the context of it, all these put together gives you a clue of what that person feels, right? One by itself, if you take and say, oh, this means that, then you would be very far off from the reality.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Did you feel that he was nervous during the speech?
No, not even like
Correct.
not a single time I felt so.
Exactly.
But
Nervousness was
hands
definitely
together,
not there in the speech. No, it was
yes.
definitely not there.
But some of his hand gestures were like a little unnecessary. Like it was sometimes too much.
Okay, yeah, that is something we'll have to discuss on, right?
Because this
That's a good
project is on,
observation. That's a
yeah,
good observation, but that's an observation. I would want you to figure out why would that be the case. See, when you said initially his hands, you felt it was nervousness. I think you easily classified it as nervousness. There was definitely something which you felt in there, right? I want you to go back and see what you felt was incorrect in there or what you felt was out of place in there. Rather than easily classify into nervousness, if you dig deeper, you'll be able to come up with the right, a very good analysis from that.
Okay. Okay.
Don't, don't box it into something that you know very easily. That would stop you from being a great evaluator. And I'm not going to share my evaluation on this. I would want all of you to come up with your evaluation. I would help you in coming up with your evaluation for the speech.
Chandramoulli, I have done the evaluation. I have just seen the video for the first time. I have noted down some points. Can you share?
Yeah. Please do. Wait, let me also take a note of it because I would want to share my thoughts on it or bring better aspect of it. Yeah, you go on and you give your entire evaluation, right? I wouldn't want anyone to interrupt when you're giving the entire evaluation. Give the entire evaluation, then we'll discuss on it, right?
Yeah. Can you start?
Yes, please.
Yeah. First of all, his opening was very good. He was his speech was not like a speech. It's like a yoga instructor. He was just started explaining a couple of yogasanas, and he has given a full history of Virabhadrasana. And he has good comment over the language. He didn't use any spiller words like so he didn't use any spiller language. I was able to get the full context of that speech, like how what is the history of Virabhadrasana. So he is good in that. The other thing is his hand gestures, body language, and hand gestures for each and every sentence was good. He was able to explain with good hand gestures. And he is not standing at one place. He was able to move back and forward, but he didn't use the entire stage. The few things which he needs to improve is smiling was missing in his speech. But he doesn't look nervous, but he could have smiled a little bit so that the audience might be able to grasp full thing. And he could have used a stage widely. He was using front and back. His leg movement was only front and back within the camera, but he didn't walk around or left or right. So if he used the stage better, it could have been better for the audience. And I felt that his voice should be little open. However, he has a good command over his language, but he has to have a good open voice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Overall, his speech was very good, but he looked like little nervous. You were telling that he is not nervous. In few places, he is not. He looked like nervous. That's what I felt. And the entire context, I was not able to grasp. It was like a normal theory. He was giving full of history, but I was able to grasp the overall context at the high level. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now I want to have a discussion on this with you. That was Kavita, right?
Chandramouli, even I want to share my speech.
Chandramoulli, this is
Like,
Kavita.
Yeah. So let us have, okay, I've taken down the points which Kavita said. Let me also take down the points which Bandana would say. And after that, if
Yeah.
anyone else wants to give their evaluation, we'll take that.
I
But
would like to add a couple of points there.
okay, let Bandana take up the
Okay,
chance.
sure.
yeah, so to the why did I feel he was nervous or something when his hands were mostly around his chest? So
Okay.
his brochure says that emphatic gestures underscore strong emotion such as earnestness and conviction. Placing your hand on your heart in many culture communicates a powerful belief in your message. So I think when he was trying to explain about Veerbhadra Asana, he was trying to make a powerful belief. What he believe is correct to the audience. So that was emphatic gestures done properly. The second is suggestive gestures, which are symbol of thoughts and emotions. An open palm can suggest giving or receiving ideas or a tangible item. His hands were closed when he was saying devas below the.
Bandana, yeah, we could not hear
So,
you. Yeah. Your voice is breaking. Can you repeat your
oh,
last statement?
yeah, so suggestive gestures in his manual says, am I audible?
Yeah, you are very much audible. Just that when you said Devas, your voice went off. So if you can repeat the last sentence, last
Yeah.
thought that you had.
So when he said that Devas and Asuras were treated equally by Lord Shiva, he placed both the hands clenched at the same level, but both were closed. So suggestive gestures were done wrong because it should be, I think, open palm to lend out the message. Apart from that, I see that his eye contact was perfect. His ineffective gestures were like his all other gestures of fidgeting and tapping your fingers, biting, everything was missing. So he was perfect at that. Facial expressions were too good. And I had some more points. When he took a step forward, he was emphasizing his point, but he wasn't taking any steps back that may help the audience to process information. So this point was not there. Lateral movement to emphasize transition was not there. Um, that's it. Yeah. Position was right, stance was correct, posture was correct.
Okay.
But arms hanging naturally at your side, this point was also missing in his stance. But his knees were straight, they were at the same level of shoulder, so shoulders were relaxed. Everything else was
So where was his arm? I mean, when you say that his was not hanging
arm
where
was
is
all the time, either he was telling Asuras up, like Devas up and Asuras down, or the whole world around. So he was using his hand gestures, sometimes meaningfully, sometimes unnecessarily. But
okay.
not a single time his arms were hanging naturally at his sides. So this was one thing not done correct in his stance. Other than that, his manual, most of the points are ticked correctly, like checked
Okay.
out.
Okay. Cool. Thank you, Bandana.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kushbu, you wanted to add something?
Yep. So as soon as he started his speech, he was very clear that he wanna talk about Veerbhadrashan. Sorry, it didn't start with any of the quotes or something. It was straight that he wanted to talk about Veerbhadrashan. So objective was quite clear. That's one. And the very beautiful thing which he brought in his speech was he formed in a story. So we were automatically hooked to listen to him what next is coming up and why actually this Veerbhadrashan came into origin. He had a very good command over his speech. I could see he used a lot of vocabulary, and there were proper pauses and all, so that was good. And apart from this, he was able to dictate each posture of the yoga. Like when he segregated the stuffs, he gave proper pauses, as well as he said this particular portion is called this and this and this. So he clearly mentioned it out, and then audience were able to grasp that. That's good points about his speech which I observed. Now the improvement part of things. So when he brought in the couple of characters in his stories like Asuras, Devas, Shiva, Parvati and all, so I could feel that he would have leaved little more onto the characters, because it was like he was just narrating it. If you would have fallen into little more on the characters with little more of a vocal variety or something, it would have given little more impact. That's one. The another thing is, at the end, I could just feel that I found it to be little abrupted. So it was like, okay, this is how the Veer Bhadrasan was formed. But then if you would have added, if we follow this yoga, what benefits we will get, or probably I'm not sure if I missed it, what benefits we get out of this Veerbhadrasan, that would have been a proper message to the audience apart from the story. That's what. And yes, that's all I observed.
Okay.
Chandramouli, this is Saurabh. I also have some points.
Yes, please. Yes, please. And after this, what we will do is we'll discuss these four before I forget and others forget. So we'll go over each one of them and I'm noting them down so that we can bring that into the discussion. Now, Saurabh, right? Yes, please, Saurabh.
Yes, thank you. So starting, I have two major points that I observed.
Okay.
The first one is that his speech was divided into three parts. The first part was related to lockdown and yoga poses. The second part was the history behind the yoga pose and why, from where did it emerge. The third part is about anger and what everyone can do if they channelize their anger in the correct direction. So the point that I want to focus here is that the transitions that he made between these three sections was very good, and we did not feel a disconnect between any of these parts. And this is why the audience was hooked to his speech and did not felt lost and was able to connect better. The second point, which could be an improvement, is that the tone of his speech was similar throughout the speech, in a sense that it used to go up and then it used to come down. It's like a waveform. His tone varied like a wave. But what I feel is when he was talking and when he talked about how Shiva marched upon Daksha, there he could have kept his tone rising, and in the end he would have brought that tone down in order to emphasize how angry Shiva was and in order to bring that anger out in his speech. The third thing I think everyone has noticed, that if he would have placed himself perpendicular to the camera, we would be able to see his postures better and visualize them clearly. So these are the 3 points that I would like to mention.
Okay, perfect. Cool. Now, thank you for the four of you to have shared your feedback. Now let us walk over each one of them. What I would want to say first off is these are all fantastic observations, right? Great observations, a great place to start. But I don't see, except for probably one point which Saurabh said, where at least there is some amount of analysis done, right? That the transitions were done when you looked at the points and you understood, okay, why was it easy for me to understand and follow? Because the transition was good. That is at least one level of analysis. I don't see that analysis at all across this, right? These are all observations, great observations, but they are that observation. I would be, if I was Suraj and I'm receiving the feedback, right, I wouldn't know how to take it. Because if you look at observation, you are observing from your perspective. You have a tainted glass, your experience, what you have been put in, what you have been made to believe, and you're looking at his speech with that tainted glass, right? It might not make sense to the speaker. For example, your opening was good. How is it good? Why is it good? I have no way of knowing, right? Good language, what does good language mean here? So hand gestures are good. I don't know what aspect of it was good and why it was good, right? And again, there are a lot of, what do you say? I think this should be there, like smile should be there, or the stage should have been used. Why should the stage have been used? Why the voice should have been open? Why there should have been a range in the voice? So until unless those questions are answered, I won't be able to understand why did you feel that was required, right? Till then it is just going to be an observation. So if, say for example, you're saying the stage was not used, can you tell me one place where usage of stage would have helped the speech and the usage was not there, right? It shouldn't be that, okay, as per me, there should be lateral movement as well and backward and forward movement as well. The stage should have been split into parts. There is no such rule when it comes to speaking, right? There is, you have to understand that one aspect, that there is no rule, right? You are not there to go through a checklist and figure out if the checklist has been successfully completed. You're there to do analysis on the speech and try to understand the purpose of the speech. Did any of you figure out what was the purpose of the speech? That's the first question I would have. The second question is, did you try and understand each of these aspects which you observed, putting it in perspective with the objective of the speech, and then trying to guess why the speaker would have done that, right? I think that was missing in all of these evaluations. So can we get started again and probably, can you think through that aspect, right? For example, when Kavita, you mentioned that the opening was good, and it was more like an yoga instructor. Why was it good? And what made you feel that it was a yoga instructor? And you understand what the opening is supposed to do, right? It is supposed to tease the audience into being excited about the speech to come and kind of giving a good idea into what is going to happen. How did it help that objective? Okay, and were you able to clearly understand what the objective was? Was the general purpose and specific purpose clear at the opening? Okay, what aspects made it very clear? And why do you qualify and say that the opening was good? Right? So that is the question I would want you to answer, and that will help us build the evaluation. Right? First, let me take Kavita's evaluation. Right? Kavita, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to put people in spotlight so that I would want you people to open up your mind and think beyond what you would normally do as evaluation, right? And that is what this workshop is all about. So I would want you to stretch your boundaries. So I don't want you to just say that the opening was good. Can you tell me why it was good?
Sure.
I want you to answer all the questions that I asked. Why do you think it is good? Were you able to understand the general purpose and specific purpose in the opening itself? What made it interesting? And how did it add value to the speech and the objective of the speech?
He started with doing yoga postures, so that it made me some interesting. What he is going to deliver in his speech? He started with some doing some yoga.
So did he
It's
start
not
with
like
yoga
normal speech.
poses?
Other speakers.
Did he start with yoga poses
No, he
again?
started with some sentence
Right. What was the opening of the speech?
at
So
the initial time. At the initial time, within 1 or 2 minutes, he started doing some 3 postures, and then
right.
he started explaining the history of Veerabhadrasana.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I'm trying to assisting as well.
It's like not an usual speeches like other people do. Other people will not do this kind of thing. Generally, they'll start talking, but he just
Okay.
started with teaching some asanas, and then he started to tell us the history of that Veerabhadrasana.
Okay. So you are trying to tell me. So if I'm listening to this as a speaker, I'll get in my mind doing something which is uncommon on stage will get the attention. Right. So where does the uncommon end? So see, uncommon is one reason why we get the attention, right? That is where I would want you to dig deeper, right? It's not like I go on stage and do something like a madman and get attention, right? So it should have some meaning, yet it should be unexpected. And so that needs to be conveyed when you say, right? So I would want you to rethink on that aspect and say what other aspects of the opening made it a good opening in your opinion. Because I still don't have sufficient information to understand why you felt it was a good opening.
As soon as he
You'd
came
get,
into the stage, he didn't.
yeah, yeah. Please carry on.
As soon as
I
he
was
came into the stage, he didn't introduce himself. He started with his interest in yoga during lockdown, and he started showing some postures,
right.
right? So he was able to show what is that Veerabhadrasana. If he was simply telling in a theoretical way, if he was trying to tell some what is Veerabhadrasana, I might have not understood very well. Since he has shown that posture, he was able to correlate with the history when he concluded.
Perfect. Right now, you are slowly starting to what do you say? As a listener, I'm able to understand what probably got you excited about the opening, right? So what got you excited about the aspect of the opening is, um, see, I could be an audience who had absolutely no idea about Veerabhadrasan. If someone comes and just tells me the history of Veerabhadrasan, I'd be like, so what? But
Yes, yeah.
since he demonstrated it, right? So you know the context of what he's trying to talk of history about. Right, he set the context for everyone, people who might know Veerabhadrasan, people who might not know Veerabhadrasan. So he set the context and brought the audience. Looks like you were a part of the audience who might not have got the context if he would not have shown the poses, right? So that for you was a good. You might have known probably one variant of Veerabhadrasan. You didn't know there were 3 variants, so he might have shown all the 3. So it was like someone doing that balancing pose on stage. You felt wow, that was one amount of excitement to watch someone try to do something like that on stage, right? because we always do like someone who, what do you say, kind of pushes the boundaries a little bit in a creative way to express themselves, right? So that aspect probably got your attention. And when the poses were given in the beginning, uh, you were wondering what could be the history for it, but in the end, when he told the story of how that pose was used by Veerabhadra to behead Daksha, now that pose made sense, right? So that aspect of doing an opening and closing that way, that you leave a puzzle in the opening and then you repeat the same thing in the end, now it makes a very different sense. That is called as a bookmark finish. I mean, that's just a technical term, but in effect, for example, there is this one fantastic book by Charles Dickens called as The Tale of Two Cities. It starts and ends with the exact same set of sentences. It was the best of the times and it was the worst of the times. So they are talking about two cities. When they started it, it was an introduction to the city, but when in the end, when they said it that when they ended it, it leaves a profound impact. And the meaning of the best of the time and the worst of the time, right? The meaning of it changes because of what happened in the rest of the book. So that is the impact that he tried to achieve. Yes, Kavita.
Yeah, he showed three poses, and he was trying to tell the history about the third pose at Veerabhadrasana,
All the
right?
three. All
So
the three. Right.
all the three.
So he showed all the three poses and he said how all the three poses came into existence, and he showed the history for all the three. Right.
Okay. But I understood like he was giving the history of only
Yeah, all the three
Veerabhadrasana.
were Veerabhadrasana.
Veerabhadrashan together,
Okay.
3 steps
So
together is called
Veerabhadrasan has three: Veerabhadrasan 1, Veerabhadrasan 2, Veerabhadrasan 3. Veerabhadrasan 1 is where he has this arms raised like this. The second one is like this,
Okay.
and the third one is like this, right? So he
Yeah.
said those were the three steps with which uh, Veerabhadra, a form of Shiva, beheaded Daksha, right? And he told the
Okay.
entire story behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to understand one more thing. As soon as started their speech, they're not introducing
Why
themselves
should
like
they?
their names and where are they from.
Why
No,
should they? The
I'm a
the
new audience. I don't know who is that speaker, so I might be interested in who is he and he is part of which
Fantastic,
club.
fantastic, right?
So before,
Yeah, so
yeah, for a new
fantastic.
audience, it will be
So in a Toastmasters meeting, right? So this one I would not talk about
do we have any pattern like we
this
have
speech.
to
Yeah.
speak for
So
one
so
or 2 minutes and then
no no
introduce
no no no
ourselves?
no no. So that is the Toastmaster of the day. What the Toastmaster of the day would do is they would introduce the speaker. They would announce the topic of the speech and then call the speaker on stage, and the speaker would just go about their speech. Okay,
Yeah.
so in that case, so that's why I asked that question, why you needed it. But uh,
But even though Toastmaster TMOD introduces the speaker, don't we need to introduce before starting our speech? Do we have any rules like we should not supposed to introduce first, then
no, there is no rule that you
we
should,
have
there is
to
no rule.
start our
There is no rule, right? So the whole point is your introduction part of your speech. If it is going to add value to your professional world of speaking, right? A speaker does not come on stage and say, hey, I am so and so, I'm doing this, I'm doing. All those things are done as a part of introduction for that person, and they come on stage and they continue. Or it's a part of their story, right? So it's one of the two. For example, say someone is giving an icebreaker in which they're going to share their story, then the TMOD would not introduce them to a greater extent. They would let them come in and do their own introduction, right? Because that's a part of their speech. So
Yes,
that is
agree.
where, so a speaker makes a decision of what needs to be introduced by the TMOD and what is required for their story, right? Because you have, so if I come on stage and I start to introduce myself, that becomes the opening of the speech. Now, that might be absolutely not in line with what I'm trying to achieve in the speech, right? So I'm not making a judicious use of the 7 minutes on stage.
But for new audience, it would be great, right? At least telling one or two sentences about them and then
That
start.
is the TMOD's job, right? The Toastmaster of the day. So you go to many of the places, even a professional speaking forum. Normally, the person, the master of ceremonies, would introduce the speaker. Imagine you go to a music concert, okay?
Okay.
The singers come on stage and they're like, hi, I'm so and so, I come from here. No, right? The singer comes on stage and sings. But there is a master of ceremony who will say, oh, next we have this fantastic singer, so and so, coming and performing this number for us. That person just comes and does the number, right? That's how audience are used to, what do you say, enjoying performances, right? Speech is also a performance. So
Okay.
so
But he introduced himself after 1 or 2 minutes, right? After showing those postures, and he said his name and all. So is it required really, or do you mean that it is
it's
not
not necessary.
required?
There is no necessity, right? See, let us look at it this way. I'm sure you're a new member, that's why you have these questions. Normally in a meeting, what happens is the TMOD introduces the speaker, says a couple of sentences about the speaker. Um, of course, introduces the name of the speaker as well, introduces the title of the speech, and then calls the speaker on stage. So already the speaker is set up, the speaker is known. The introduction can be used effectively, right? What do you think should have been the introduction for this person? Say, for example, so our next speaker is a member of such and such a club. Um, he's currently working in such and such an organization. He has a recently found passion for yoga. Put your hands together and welcome Suraj on stage. The title of his speech is The Tale of Virabhadrasan. I don't know what the title is because he didn't share it. So title of the speech is Tale of Virabhadrasan. Suraj comes on stage and he gives the speech, right? So what do you think the introduction of Suraj should be? He'll come on stage and say, oh, this title is yoga, is it? Okay, thank you. So should Suraj come on stage and again say, hi, I'm Suraj, I work in so and so, I belong to this club? It would be repetition of what the TMOD said, right?
But he was trying to wish the audience, like fellow Toastmasters and guest, good evening.
That is
And
also
this is
good.
Suraj. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. That
And
is
why
okay.
are they doing that after talking 1 or 2 minutes? Why are they not wishing as soon as
Was
they
that
start speaking?
no,
Do
there
we
is
have any
no
pattern?
pattern. So don't search for patterns. He thought it
Okay.
was,
Even in my JPMC Toastmasters Club, I could observe that speakers are not wishing immediately. They used to talk for 1 or 2 minutes. Then they used to introduce this, like, this is Kavita and good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guest. And I'm just going to
so
talk about so and so
you
title.
need not say this is
So they are following this
Kavita and
pattern.
I'm going to talk about so and so topic. That is not required. It's like a comedian coming on stage and saying that, you know what, now I am so and so, now I'm going to crack a joke on so and so. They'll just go and crack a joke, right? So there is one aspect of addressing the audience, right? And that is courtesy, right? So that is a choice, right? So some people are like, oh, hi everyone, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. That is perfectly fine. Or dear Toastmasters, that is perfectly fine. Or you want to leave that hanging in the air and you kind of give your opening and then address the audience. That is also perfectly fine. I mean, it is not a pattern or a strategy. It is just like some people naturally do it one way or the other, right? Or some people would have been inspired when they saw someone do it and like, oh yeah, this sounds like a good idea, why not do it, right? There is no rule that it should be done this way or that way.
Okay. Okay, all right.
But there is a courtesy, right? So previously, in fact, see, if you look at it, British people are very, very, what do you say, rules oriented. So to a certain extent, Toastmasters, though it came from US, initially it was very rules oriented, and that culture also became a little more loose. I don't know if you know that previously in contests, the contest master used to stand till the speaker addresses contest master, right? So, and it's a sign of courtesy that they call a person on stage, then they would be like, thank you contest master, and they would normally continue the address. That was natural at some point in time. Now people started to use that for effect, right? So they would be like um, they would probably give an introduction. So say for example in this one, if this was a contest speech, he would do the Veerabhadrasana and say, do you know the history of this contest master, right? So he addressed the contest master in the right time. That's a recall effect. And in the end probably leave by saying, so these are some things that people do. I'm not recommending or not recommending it, I'm just saying the thought process behind
All right.
it. Okay. So, Kavita,
And
I
when we
think
have
you are new
some
into
comment,
Toastmasters, right? Are you very new into Toastmasters, or how long have you been a Toastmaster?
it's been almost 3-4 months.
Okay, okay, cool. Because I think it is good to catch it early. Don't learn bad habits in Toastmasters, right? It's very easy to learn bad habits in Toastmasters because a lot of people tend to assume that there is a certain formula for giving a speech. You have to move backward and forward, side, left. This is how you give a speech. Those are all not requirement at all. If you feel, so that's why I want you to dig deeper, right? And that's the whole idea of this entire workshop. I want you to dig deeper and understand, if that person did not move sideways, did that affect the speech? Did you feel that something was lacking,
Okay.
right? If it was not, then there is not a problem. There is one world champion, right? He came first. That makes him a world champion. He used a leg turn. He stood behind the leg turn, probably moved 2 steps this side, 2 steps that side, on a stage which was at least 30 feet long. And he became the world champion, right? So don't assume that certain things are needed because you're told to believe so. Use your own instinct, use your own judgment. If something feels out of place, question yourself why that feels out of place. And that is the analysis I would want you to do, right? You have made great observations.
Okay.
I can probably go on your observations itself, but we would run out of time. We are already exceeding the time now. But I want you to
Sure,
think
sure.
about all the observation, right? I think
Sarmishta also wanted to give
Sarmishta
her.
wanted to give her
Yeah.
feedback, right? Yeah, Sarmishta, please go on.
Yes. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So, for Suraj's speech, what I really loved about the speech was the transition he had through the speech. Like, first, he opened the speech with the poster. So, when I saw the poster, that, for me, it has no value. These are just poster. But with the speech, how it prolonged, when I saw the poster in the ending, it really made sense to me. And the best part of the speech was I could feel the emotions or the anger that was attached to that poster, and how, like, the connection between it. So that was the master stroke about the speech. And another thing about the speech was the story. It was completely detailed. Every character that he introduced, it was detailed. There was the touch of who is that person. So any person who is not familiar with the character or the mythology of Indian mythology, can get a clear idea about all these characters. So these points are just mind blowing. Apart from that, his body language is also good. So main thing that I find, that he could have done a little bit better, like, it was that uh, the story had a lot of details, as I have mentioned. But in the process of the story, I, as an audience, I couldn't, get hold on to one character, because when you are listening to a story, especially, I want to get one character to hold on the emotional attachment and take the journey with the character. Though Daksha was in the story, and it was amazingly, like, it was very nice to hear the entire what Daksha's thought process was, why he wanted to do the yagna. But still, at the end, it was like the Sati, Shiva, all of those characters, had the equal weightage. At some point, I felt that, and that is the thing that I really missed. Because in story, you need to emphasize one character so that audience can easily attach with that particular character. So apart from that, one just main point that I felt was that when Sati died, like that part when he mentioned that she fell into the fire, and there Suraj had taken a pause, but the situation was more devastating. So I was expecting a little bit more time so that to grasp the entire emotion, what just happened, and then move into the creation of Virabhadra. So that was another thing. And apart from that, the title of the speech is yoga. So when I heard the word yoga, the mental picture I had was it will be about yogas. But however, it was about a particular posture. So maybe the title could have been in a way molded so that it is easy to get a hint about, or something. Like, I miss the connection between the title and the particular speech content. And I do not see anything that is more required, because Suraj is really good with all his detailings, and the speech was actually insightful, detailed, and informative. And yes, of course, the little bit of emphasizing with the characters, and mostly this will just make the speech take the speech to another level. That is what I feel, and rest of the points are already been discussed.
Okay. Thank you, Sharmishta. I do see some, at least, it is good that you put in some amount of analysis. Though there are a lot of things which could be done better, I think there was definitely some analysis in your speech, in your evaluation. All right. So we are at 4:38. How long do you think we can go on in this meeting for, Khushbu? Till 5?
Yeah, so for this evaluation thing, what we are discussing, we can go till 5, and then 5 Samishta can give her speech.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So let me then take the second evaluation, which is done by Khushbu, right? So Khushbu, again, a few things. So let us look at what we discussed and try and have a connection with what we are evaluating now, right? So we did not discuss on how each of the aspects try to achieve the goal of the speech, right?
Yep.
What kind of a speech was it? What was the general purpose? What was the specific purpose? Can someone tell me?
It was an informational speech.
Okay.
I think it was a very smart way of using the project purpose, that was on effective body language, and what best way of
Do you
using
think
effective.
so? Do you think so? I mean, I would want to question you on that. So what makes
Yoga perhaps was a smart way according to
Why?
him, to display the effective body language. I think that was perhaps one of the reasons why he chose yoga to
My
use,
question is, why do you think so?
because all the nuances of yoga could exhibit that he had a tight control over the body language and communicate through the body language. I think that was perhaps one of the reasons why Suraj chose yoga as the
Okay. So this is some, I think this is a myth I see only in India, right? So that's why I want to explain on this. Not outside of India, but in India, we believe, okay, if it is a body language speech, you need to do a dance on stage, you need to do yoga on stage, you need to do this. That is demonstration of body language. No, that is not. In the end, we are not demonstrating that our body is capable of moving. That is not body language purpose. The purpose of body language, you have to communicate something, right? When you have to communicate something, how do you use your gestures, your facial expressions, probably the stage. So the things that you have in the physical space, how do you use it to express? There are three ways in which you express, right? It is mastery over how do you use the physical aspect which is there, which is the space that you have, the hands you have, the facial expressions that you have, probably your stance, your posture. So how do you make use of all of these things? Probably any props that you can carry with you, right? So let us, even if you have heard in the past that, oh, for vocal variety speech, you use different characters and their voices. Oh, that's a great use of vocal variety. No, it's not. That's a rubbish use of vocal variety, right? You are putting it in a box and saying that a voice should, the use of vocal variety is only to characterize. It's not. Or so if you look at a dance or a yoga pose, that's a demonstration, right? You understand what a demonstration is, right? Demonstration is not communication. Demonstration is one way, right? When you dance, it's one way. It's demonstration that I can dance. When you do yoga, it's demonstration that I can do yoga. It's not a part of communication. So you can use that as a part of a speech. That does not make it an intelligent choice, right? So I would want you to shed that thought process. Look at, was that actually his body language communicating, right? So that is the critical switch that I would want you to switch on. Yes, please carry on. That was that. I'm sorry for interrupting, but that I felt that.
I got your point.
Yeah. Yeah. You have anything else to share on that?
I think that's enough.
Okay, perfect. I am trying to make you people think a little bigger, and that's why I'm putting in these ideas. Uh, uh, because unfortunately, right, we have learned, and it's not just you or it's not just the others. All of us have learned to evaluate this way. Somehow that has been put into us. That, oh yeah, this is the way to use body language. No, it's not. It's definitely not the case. And if you try to restrict yourself that way, it does not become an expression, right? So you want to use your speech to express yourself. It's not that you go on stage and you perform to a given set of rules. That is not creativity, right? So it should be creative yet makes sense. So let's look at it from that perspective. I do not want any of us to keep in mind that there is a rule that, okay, on the stage you need to divide it into parts and you have to do it on stage, or you go backward, it means this, you go forward, it means that, you go left side, it means this. No, none of those things are true, right? But if I do it and it does not make a cognitive sense for you, right? So if someone does it and you kind of feel odd, what could be the problem? If you dissect and analyze it, you'll get the true cause for it. You might feel, okay, why is he not moving sideways? If that is an observation you make, you can very easily say, oh, the stage was not used. right? But if you think about it, okay, why did it bother me so much that he did not move sideways? Was it needed for the speech? Probably it would be. That's why you observed it, right? So I want you to question yourself on why did the speaker try to construct themselves. So in this case, it is very evident, right? Why the speaker tried to restrict themselves to only forward and backward movement. Can someone tell me why?
One is because of the technicality. If it would have moved so much, audience wouldn't have.
First off, the camera was set up in such a way that it only captures, the focus was very narrow, right?
Correct.
So had
Yep.
he moved to the side, he would have been outside of the camera.
Yep.
So I think, I forgot who, Saurabh pointed out that it would have been nice to have the camera turned the other way so that we would have got a wider view of the room, right? Then that restriction wouldn't have been there, right? So which means probably there would have been opportunity to use the stage. But the question is, did the speaker want to use the stage? Was the stage usage not enough for us to understand the speech?
I believe that was quite here. The movement was not required and he was up to the mark.
Okay. Fair enough.
Chandramoulli,
Yeah.
in my opinion, what I mentioned, as you mentioned clearly, that if the phone was perpendicular,
Right.
audience would have been able to see the poses clearly, because if I may, can I switch on my video and show it?
Yeah. Please do.
Yeah. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
So when he did the poses, the first pose was this.
Right.
But what if I do like this?
I agree. So I was expecting that to come out, right? So more than that pose, right? This pose at least is all right. The second Veerabhadrasan pose, you know Veerabhadrasan too, right? Yeah. So yeah, correct. So this would have been better off done, especially in the end if it is like, let me try that. I don't know if my setup would help. But say for example, I'm sure you guys can hear. So, okay, probably I have to move this back a little. For example, look at this, right? So it is this, and this, right? So that makes it like an, it's, you see that it's an action of cutting someone. So this, and this, right? So if that is shown, it gives you a room to express, right? Probably the setup did not facilitate it. That's a very good feedback to give, right? So if you had to kind of showcase, see, I did not understand the sequence in beheading, right? That is an observation that I had. You won't lift the sword up like this and then look like this and then cut, right? So you would first do this, you would know where the opponent is, then lift the sword and you'll behead, right? You understand where I'm coming from? So that was the order in the sequence, which was kind of, so that left a doubt in my head. So that is secondary, that is technical nature of the speech. Let us forget that, right? The second one is, if that had to be demonstrated, the angle did not facilitate the demonstration, right? So from the demonstration perspective, the angle chosen was not the apt one. So that was the point which Saurabh wanted to tell, and I perfectly agree with that. That is an important feedback to be given to the speaker, that it's a setup which is very important, right? You want to tell a story, the setup should facilitate it. The setup was not facilitating it.
Yep, I agree. Yep.
The same usage, same thing had you done with the camera on the other side, right? He would have been able to express it better. He would have been able to see the poses better, right? So that is something, that is a very valid point, right? Other than that, see, we people, especially on video, right? They're communicating. Say, for example, right now I'm sitting and talking. Would you give a comment that I did not use the stage? I did not move around left and right. So this is also a speech, right? So then why, when it comes to a speech, we start to say, oh, you did not use the stage. Oh, you did not do that. So if it is required, that would be done, right? So let us get that mentality right. There is no need to raise the voice, decrease the voice. So say, for example, if you have a thought process that someone needs to raise the voice for anger, not everybody raises the voice for anger. The question is, did the anger come across to you or not? If you feel that the anger did not come across to you, don't make a suggestion that you should raise the voice to showcase anger, because that might not be the way in which the person would express anger. Because that is showcasing your lack of empathy for the speaker, which means you don't understand probably how the speaker would express themselves. And you go ahead and say, okay, this is how you should express. You're not teaching them expression, right? You're just telling them that if you try to express anger, it did not come across to me. Probably you'll have to do more of it, right? Because that was that place. So when we talk of Veerabhadrasan being in anger, forming an entire army, coming and killing someone, right? Or the Sati jumping into fire and killing herself, right? These are all like extremes of acts, right? And that extremes of emotion did not carry over to us because it was not depicted most, how can I put it? There was not much of the emotion did not carry through the body language and the vocal variety for us, right? That was missing. So that is a way. So you can say that. So though there, I really wanted to feel for Sati jumping into the fire, right? Or I really wanted to feel the anger that Veerabhadra felt. That would have added to the impact of the speech. But there was somehow it did not come across to me. I did not try to say that, okay, this is how it should come across. I say, probably you need to go back and look at how you normally express anger, how you normally express sadness, and you need to amplify it and present it to me, because that required a higher level of anger. Anger had to be dialed up, and the there was see, someone jumped into the fire and gave life, right? That you just moved on very quickly. You didn't leave us the time to at least I didn't have the time to feel that grief, right? So had I felt that grief, I would have been able to feel the anger also equally well. I don't know which went missing, right? For me, in the end, I couldn't experience both to the best. So it is not that a pause is required and was not given. The right way to put it, and so this is analysis, right? Why is a pause required there? So someone jumped into the fire and gave their life, right? So it takes some time for me to understand what has happened, then digest what has happened. Then comes the anger that, oh my God, so she came there to confront her father, and she was insulted, and she killed herself by jumping into the fire, right? So then you'll be like, why did she do that? I mean, was it couldn't it have been resolved? So there'll be 100 things which will go in your head. Then when we move the focus to Shiva, you know, oh my God, he lost his wife. And he lost his wife because his wife's dad insulted her. And that is why he is angry, right? So there is a transition which happens in our mind during that period, because we have 100 thoughts running and they need to be given their space for them to amplify the effect of what is intended. And that space was not given for them, right? Just like he didn't give space for himself to showcase his entire asana, he didn't give us the space to expand on the emotion that he wanted to leave us with.
Can I interrupt you a bit?
Yes, Nitin.
I think the whole intention, I don't know, just for argument's sake, if his whole intention is to showcase the origin and the whole etymology of this Veerbhadrasan, and not going to the nitty-gritties of Sita dying and the goddess and the fight between Asuras and all that, those are all small nitty-gritties. He was trying to perhaps showcase the origin of Veerbhadrasan.
Agree.
Does he have to delve into all those things? Because he's trying to
fantastic. So let me ask you, so it's a good point, right? So let me ask you this. So if he had to tell, there are two ways of dealing with it, right? One, why did he start that story? He said that he was interested in knowing the history of it. And when he wanted to know the history of it, when he learned the history, he understood how it came about, right? For example, what did he learn from the history? That anger, when exposed outward, it caused destruction. But when you understand how to control it and direct it inwards, it becomes a yogasana, right? You get a mastery over it. So you are able to channelize the energy the right way. And that is what is yoga, right? So that is his finish. Had he done that well, right? So had it carried through, nobody would say that yoga does not make sense as a title, right? So if you think about it, it is a sequence of things that he wanted to achieve. Agreed? The order was tall. So he wanted us to, you take one example of an asana, and with that asana, you wanted to understand what is yoga intending us to do. If that is what was his purpose, if you look at a higher purpose, right? If that was the purpose that he set out with, probably it didn't make sense to me because I could not understand the connect very clearly. So if I look at why I probably could not understand the connect clearly, there are two ways of handling it, right? One, I would say, okay, the history, this is the history, move on, right? And that way I'm not trying to create an impact with it. But he tried to create an impact with it because he dwelled in detail with the story. Had he said, there was Daksha who had a daughter, Sati, and she married Shiva against the wishes of Daksha. So Daksha conducted a yajna in which he did not invite Sati and Shiva. Sati came to confront, and Daksha was like, he insulted her more. She jumped into the fire. She gave her life. Angered by this, Shiva took a form of Veerbhadra. He gathered the army of whoever he could find. They marched in, and he beheaded. The pose that he used to behead became Veerbhadrasana, right? This, I don't want to delve into the details of this becomes a very history point of view narration. This still makes sense, but he didn't do this, right? Because that was not his intent. So I read into it that way. If this was his intent, then this makes sense.
Got it.
Right? But he dwelled into details. So when you go into the details of telling a story, so he's trying to create an impact. He wants us to visualize it. And that is where the Veerbhadrasana creates an impact. Right? So that is when it makes a connect in the end. Right? And then when he makes the statement that, so he used that poses, it's the same poses with which he beheaded someone. That's an expression of anger, right? Now we do the same one to channelize the same energy. So you understand, to behead someone, what amount of energy is required, right? What amount, and with the sword you are beheading, that is like a very fierce movement. It's a lot of energy, right? And now what you are doing in yogasana, you are channelizing the energy inward, right? You're capturing that energy which that pose gives, and you're channelizing it inward, and you're controlling it. And that is yoga, right? So you reap the benefit of the yoga by doing it this way, because you're channelizing it rather than use it with anger, right? It's the same motion, and that's the aspect which missed its impact, because most people, from what I understand, did not get that connect, because this chain of thought was missing, right? Because he didn't give sufficient time and breath for each of these. Hope you agree on that, or
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Agree on.
Perfect. Right. So there are some fantastic observations, right? So all the observations which each of you made is very, very valid, right? What I would want you to do is go back and do an analysis of why was that causing a problem. Don't believe in anything any evaluator has told you before, right? Don't think, okay, stage means it should be used this way. If you don't remember anything else from this workshop, I would want you to take home this, that you'll have to unlearn all the bad habits of evaluation that you have learned, right? Assuming that this is the way in which the speech should be done. There should be key points in the speech. An opening needs to have, what do you say, there is never what should be there in the opening, what should be there as a body language, what should be there, what should never be fixed, and you should not try to fix a speech towards the what. Each of these have a purpose. Understand the why behind, why is body language used, why is the stage used, why is the voice used, right? Why is a conclusion existing, why there have to be multiple points in a speech, why can't there be more than a certain number, or can there be a certain, more than certain number, right? So question all these things, and that is when you'll get the right answer to it. Because more often than not, what happens, there is a fantastic story. With that, we'll go on to Sharmishta's speech. I'm sure some of you would have heard it, right? But let me go ahead and say that. So there was this monastery in which there was a monk, and he had his disciples, right? And they used to meditate every day. Okay. Now what happened, there was a cat which used to come and disturb them during the meditation. Now you can't, so it's a monastery, right? So you don't kind of control animals a lot, right? You want to nurture them as well, yet they are disturbing meditation. So what the monk ordered is for one of the disciples to go and there was a fantastic tree, so which was outside of where they used to meditate. Keep a bowl of milk which the cat can enjoy for an hour, leave the cat there, and ask everyone to sit and do the meditation. So cat would not come and disturb them. They can do the meditation. This went on for years. Every day before doing the meditation, they will keep a bowl of milk outside, call the cat, leave it near the milk, come back and sit, and everybody will do the meditation. Years passed by. The monk passed away, and the next in line disciple became the new monk. Okay. A few months later, a tragedy happened. The cat passed away. Now they are in a fix. How can they do meditation? Because doing meditation means first you have to find a cat, you have to put a cat milk outside and put the cat near that. After that only you can start the meditation. Right now you don't have a cat to start the meditation, right? This is how our observations are at this stage, right? We are like, okay, why didn't you use the stage? We don't think behind what is the purpose of that. Because someone somewhere told that the stage had to be used, right? Why did the monk want the cat to be left outside with the milk? So that the meditation is not disturbed. If we understand that, if there is no more cat, then there is no more disturbance. There is no need to keep milk outside and find a cat for that. That is not a part of meditation, right? So it is important to understand the nuances before making a comment on it, right? And that is what I would want all of you to take from this evaluation workshop, that you will have to unlearn the thought process of what is required in the speech. There is nothing which is required in the speech, but the why is what you need to look at. Why there has to be an opening, why there has to be the body, why there has to be a conclusion. And that is what we try to understand. And we need to guess the speaker's thought process behind it. And that is what I did with this part as well. Like, there are choices, right? The speaker made. He could have just quickly ran through what happened and came to the conclusion if he just wanted to give the history. But he kind of elaborated it. Why he would have done that? Probably so that in the end, when he did the Virabhadrasan, you will understand how there is energy in that, and how later on what he said, right? That anger expressed outside, whereas when you do yogasan, you control it and you direct this energy inside, and you gain mastery over it. You gain control over your body and your mind, right? So in order for that impact to be there, he had to do it. He had to align them a little better. And how would you present that? So probably the way to present that is, see, I could understand, I'm probably guessing these things, right? So I would probably put it this way, that I'm guessing that you try to create this impact. However, I probably did not have sufficient time to comprehend the grief, move on to the anger, and move along and get the philosophy behind yoga. Somewhere I felt that I didn't have sufficient time to move along with you, right? Probably I am slow. Others might have got it. Probably I am slow. But I didn't get it. And I think if you had given me a little more time in each of these and delved a little deeper, probably expressed a little more of anger in your way, a little more of grief in your way, help me delve in those aspects, right? I would have understood the philosophy in the end better, right? So that is the chain of thought, and that is analysis being presented, right? So you make an observation, look at why they would have done that, what might have been the thought process behind the speaker having done that. Obviously, you will have to make some choices, and you are guessing there. Present that you're guessing there, and present it from your perspective, the problem that you're facing, and say that, for me, this would have helped, right? Can you think about it? Hope you got that aspect of how do you present an observation, converting to an analysis and being presented as an evaluation.
Yes.
Fantastic. So all set. Probably now, Sharmishta, it's your time. Can you? Who knows the title of Sharmishta's speech?
Yep, I know. Give me a second.
Okay, perfect. So Kushbu would go ahead and introduce Sharmishta, and Sharmishta, you can go ahead and give your speech. All the best.
Yep. So to talk about Sarmishta, we have heard already speaking, we already heard her. She has given a wonderful evaluation and wonderful insights. She's from PS and Toastmasters Club from Bangalore. And sorry, I don't have much information about you. But then I would like to, last week, she has opted that she want to give a speech and then she want to get evaluated. And I love her courage on coming up front and then giving her speech. Her speech title is "I'm not a leader. I'm not a leader, Sarmishta."
Thank you for the lovely introduction. Just one little correction. I am from AIG Toastmasters Club, not PSN Toastmaster Club.
Sorry, I got a wrong input in.
Yeah, it's okay. Okay. So as I just want to have to request that I don't want the speech to be timed, and also that it should be judged or like evaluated on a standalone speech, not as a part of a project. That would be really good. If everybody is okay with it, I will start with my speech. I'm not a leader.
Perfect. Please go carry on.
Okay, thank you. Leaders. What does come to your mind when you hear the word leader? Historic figures, politician, presidents, directors, CEOs, or Toastmaster. You know the tagline, Toastmaster, where leaders are made. We are truly spellbound with the concept of leadership. And who doesn't want to be a leader? Well, I don't know about you, but I don't. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have always been that person who likes to stay in the crowd and enjoy the scene. 2 to 3 people are fighting along with their respective groups, and by the side, another group is talking behind their back. In the corner, there I stand, enjoying the sweetness of chaos. I don't wish to lead or to be in the limelight, and still I got compliments on my leadership qualities, and then my reactions are goes, wait, what? Who? Are you speaking to me? The reason behind this reaction is that I have very specific standard to call or consider anyone as leader. Nowadays, the leadership term is used so often that it is losing its value. Let me share my insight on leadership. If you consider leadership to a tall building, then you need to know how it is constructed. There are 4 L in leadership: listen, learn, lead, legacy. These are the 4 pillars of the structure, and this structure is built on a foundation which is called belief. You need to believe something that you want to change or carry forward, and then begin your journey. You listen to your voice, your people. You lead yourself or the world to a better tomorrow. And when you are gone, you leave your legacy for those who follow you. All these different leadership styles come way later, but we are so focused in learning about different leadership styles that we do not care about what we believe in. And this reminds me of a famous quote by Lee Kuan Yew. He said, I do not yet know of a person who became a leader having undergone a leadership course. Well, it is true. Those who lead, they just lead a belief. In summer of 1963, when Martin Luther King Jr. said, I have a dream, when Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose said, give me blood and I shall give you freedom. On September 11, 1893, when Swami Vivekananda started his speech saying, brothers and sisters of America, all of them had led the entire nation with the core belief, a dream for a better tomorrow. At any point of time, anyone can possess the power to be a leader. To support this statement, I have a story to tell. The story of 3 darkest nights of Mumbai. And these nights were led by many brave souls. In November 2008, Taj Mahal Palace Hotel were attacked by terrorists. On 26 November, when the attack began, there were about 1,100 guests and 600 employees. Amongst these guests, there were global leads of Unilever, the outgoing and incoming CEO, board of directors, senior managers, and so on. But in that room, there were one more person, a 24-year-old newly joined employee who was in charge of that corporate event. Her name is Malika Jagat. When the gunfire began, she came to the guest and said, Sir, ma'am, get down your knees and move to the corner. Without questioning anything, all of them did what that rookie asked them to do. She handled the situation brilliantly. Eventually, all the guests were saved by the fire department. Well, this was the scenario in the banquet hall. Another heroic attempt happened in the backdoor stairways of the hotel. A massive evacuation was carried out by the kitchen staff. All of them stood together holding hand in hand and creating a human shield. Around 100 guests were able to leave the hotel safely. However, While this evacuation was in progression, the terrorists found out and mercilessly started firing guns. On that night, 6 of the hotel staff were shot dead. The hotel staff knew each and every corner of this hotel. They would have saved their life easily, but none of them left their duty. They were mere hotel staff, right? Probably they never thought of being a leader, but they ended up being a hero, a leader, just because they believe in saving their guests. Athithi Deva Bhava. You will not find their names, pictures, details anywhere because they are common people with exceptional courage. But I know the legacy still echoes at each corner of the hotel. Leadership is not something fancy, powerful, or full of authority. It is a mixture of belief, vision, courage, and action. So, my dear friends, at this point of time, if you don't consider yourself as a leader, it is completely okay. You never know what future holds for you. All you need is 20 seconds of insane courage to accept that opportunity. Have a broader perspective on leadership. Try to acknowledge the unsung heroes who never wanted to be a leader but ended up being one just because they believe in making a difference. On their behalf, I am not a leader, but I have jumped into a storming river to save a life. I am not a leader, but I have sacrificed my life for my nation. I am not a leader, but I have single-handedly grown an entire forest. I am not a leader, but I'm making all those homeless animals my pet. I am not a leader, but I have left everything in search of truth. I am not a leader, but I am going out to educate the youth. I am not a leader, but I have opened my doors for the abandoned elders. I am the voice of millions, and you don't know me because I am not a leader. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Mister. Indeed, it was a wonderful speech.
Thank you.
Yep. So I also realized that leadership, when we talk about leaders, it need not to be that we should have that title in our name, like I'm a manager or I'm a director or something like that. We individually, each one of us are leader because we are leading our life and we are leading. Take any small event, when we do it in a perfect way, whatever the small role we are doing, we're leading that and we are making a difference in that. So when we talk about leadership, we shouldn't have any title, need not to have any title basically. Yep. So this speech, anyway, we had a recording, so recordings will be sharing in our group as well. So when we meet next week, we will grill Sharmishta.
Can't wait.
And thank you, Sharmishta, for the speech again. And I really appreciate your giving the speech on a fantastic topic, something which I enjoyed the thought process which it opened up in my head. And thank you for that. I would want to listen to everyone's evaluation. I would want all of you to think of the aspects and kind of come up with a detailed analysis, right? Let us not stop with observation. Let us move from the journey of the observation into an evaluation. And I would want us to try that out with this speech, right? And is this your first speech, Sharmishta?
No, I have already given this in my club. Like it is my level 2 project 1. So
Okay.
I am in level 3 now.
Oh,
but
nice.
I don't want it to be judged on the project.
No. I'm just asking because someone wanted to give their icebreaker, right? So I thought, okay, is this the icebreaker or? No, this is your level 2 project. Perfect. That's perfectly fine. I'm not looking at that aspect for the evaluation, but thank you for sharing the thought process on leadership.
Yes,
was fantastic.
It was nice.
In fact, on the similar line, right? So taking the topic just for a moment, similar topic. Any of you follow Chendil Kumar? CK?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Chendil Kumar is now doing a blog every day. I mean, he is doing 30-day vlogs, and he is a man of stories. I mean, he's traveled. His name of his blog site is Rotating Swami, right? And he has a very different take on things. And he spoke of a staff at a hotel, and how she. I mean, it's not something great for someone to comment on, but it is like, so he was getting late for a meeting where he had to go and do a presentation. I think it was in Mangalore, and it was I forgot the name of the hotel. So she the seamster was not there, and his suit was missing a button. So she got the thread and the needle, and she sewed in the button for him. So he remembered that, and he shared that incident in the session wherever he gave. I think it was a Rotary Club where he was giving a speech, and everybody came back and complimented her, right? And that is the true leadership, right? So that is without authority, um, and that is where people make a difference. They don't look at, okay, if I have the authority, I can do things, versus, okay, with the given resources, within the given limitation, how I can make a difference. And then that thought process is fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with us, Sharmishta.
Yep, because we all have a myth saying that we'll only be leader when we have given that position. But once we actually do justice to whatever the current role we have, automatically that will act as a stepping stone and automatically lead to that tag if you're looking for.
Okay, someone mentioned that the session is not live on Facebook because of some issues with streaming, but it will be shared as a recorded post by the end of the day, right? In case it is not shared on Facebook and you post it on YouTube as well, share the link with everyone, please. Thank you.
Yep.
Kushbu, back to you. You can probably conclude the session if there are no other questions or queries.
Yep. Anybody else has any questions, concerns, or any points you want? Because next week will be our last session, and we're gonna wrap up this session. And it will be great that if you want to cover something on the next week which you feel that was missed, it will be great, so that we'll be well prepared and we'll come up accordingly. Or otherwise, we'll be mostly discussing on the semester's speech. That's one. And one more thing which we wanted to discuss on the evaluation sheet. Probably we haven't gone through on this last 5 weeks. Right, Chandramoulli?
Yeah, evaluation contest evaluation judging sheet, right? Judging ballot.
Yes,
right?
yes, yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah, I'll bring that up next week as well. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, I'll bring that
Yep,
up.
yep. So,
and anything else that you wanted to cover and understand on evaluation, please feel free to ask. I can only provide my perspective. I'm not saying that is the universal truth, but that's my perspective, right? And I would want you to form a perspective for yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. So that is something that we'll carry in the next session as well. Along with the evaluation ballot, I would share the evaluation ballot and we'll discuss on that briefly next week. Thanks for bringing that up, Kushbu.
Yep. And that's all, I believe. Nobody has any questions. So thanks all for joining.
Chandramoulli, I have a question.
Yes,
Sorry for the
sure.
interruption.
No problem.
We have different level of speech, right? So do we introduction, icebreaker speech, and different levels in the projects, right? So do we have different level of evaluations also, like, or do we have a common evaluation?
Can you be more specific? I'm trying to understand the question, but I don't understand. I mean, I can guess what you're trying to ask. You're asking if there should be different levels of evaluators as well.
Yeah. So I have got the input from your session for evaluation. So do I need to follow different aspects for evaluating icebreaker speech, or project 1 level 1 or project 2?
Yes, of
level 2,
course.
level 3 kind of
Right.
thing.
So that is where you show the empathy with the speaker, right? So what are we trying to evaluate that? So let me look at what was what is his name? Suraj trying to experiment with his speech on, right? He was trying to experiment with his speech on body language. That was the speech objective, right? How do you
Okay.
use body language effectively for communication? And that is what most of the comments were centered around. Agreed? So the main focus area was that, and that's why our focus was mainly on that. Having said that, where do you showcase the objectives of the speech? Say, for example, someone is giving an icebreaker, or someone is giving a research topic, right? So, say, for example, in this speech of body language, there is a story. Is there a necessity for the story to have a message? No, there is no necessity, right? But you might feel empty in the end because probably of the reason that the conclusion did not give the impact which it was supposed to, right? So as per the speech objective, it is not required to evaluate on that, but if you feel that something was done and it could be done better, you evaluate on that. Having said that, say for example, a speech is on research the topic, right? And you feel that the speech had nothing to do with the research. What is every speaker trying to do with the speech? There are certain objectives and they are trying to do their work on that objective and they're presenting it as a speech. The evaluator should be aware of these aspects when they present their evaluation. It shouldn't be a standalone, right? Certain aspects would be outside of the objectives of the speech, but definitely the evaluation should be also taking into consideration the objectives of the speech. Hope that made sense.
Yes, yeah,
And
I
that
got
is
you.
why I wanted Suraj to share the entire project booklet. I'm not sure how many of you looked at it. That gives a clear understanding of what is expected of the body language. Right? So, and he's trying to experiment it with the speech, and that is the awareness that should be brought in when an evaluator is evaluating it. He's not a master of it yet, right? That's why he's doing the project. So, if someone is trying to learn to ride a bike, you don't go and say that, hey, you know what, you are still struggling with your bike. That should not be an evaluation, right? So the project is trying to post them. It is a lesson on learning how to ride a bike. So you might probably wish to say, okay, you were able to hold it for this long, right? So probably you have to do these minor adjustments, then I'm sure you'll do a fantastic job. When it comes to body language, you don't look at them as a master of it if they're doing a project in that, right? You understand that they're experimenting on it and you give a constructive criticism to help them understand how they can make themselves better. So that's the shift in focus if you understand what the project objectives are.
All right. And this may not be the right forum. Could you please explain the different levels and projects? Since I'm little new to Toastmasters, I just want to have insight on that.
No problem.
If time permits, would you be able to explain?
The
And
way
how
is
can I choose
very.
my path
Oh, you would
after
have to choose
giving?
a path. Okay, that one we'll have a separate conversation. I think
Okay.
we'll take others' time in that conversation, but feel free to connect after this meeting and I'll be more than happy to explain to you on that.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Yep.
Cool.
So, yep. Thanks all for joining today, and see you all next week. Please be prepared, even including myself, so that we can have some meaningful session, because that will be the last session of our evaluation bootcamp. And thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks, Chandramouli. It was very helpful session.